Yeah, we've basically crossed that bridge today. So, I can still recall, like, say, all the crazy things surrounding Death Note and its history. It's safe to say it's been a decade since well over a decade since the anime adaptation of the Death Note manga has hit airwaves throughout all of Japan, which is pretty awesome. Like back in 2005, the movies came out. Prior to that, 2003, the original Death Note manga was released. And I have to say, it's, yeah, like, Death Note has a really interesting history. But to formally introduce myself, my name is Showa60. For those of you who don't know, I am an anime fan, I am a Toku fan, and I like all things geeky, things like that. And my YouTube channel is basically your favorite geek convention panel brought to life. That's basically my goal. Your standard live streams, character analysis, let's plays, and of course the occasional comic book, which will be coming soon. I promise you that. But no, I really want to talk about one of the most prolific manga franchises that has been touching the lives of the anime community for quite some time, and that is Death Note. I came across Death Note through word of mouth throughout the anime community, and I always wondered what the heck it was. I would always go to conventions before the series would come to the States or become public knowledge to everyone who wasn't just watching subtitles online. And from what I hear, it's pretty good. Well, the manga at least. Then I see the live action movies, which were my first official run into the Death Note franchise. The live action series, and by that I mean the one starring Tetsuya Fujiwara and Kenichi Matsumoto. Now, a lot of people have given both live action versions, including L Change the World, like bad criticism. Well, not everybody, just a vast majority of people who just can't stand live action versions of their anime. A lot of people have a lot of hate when it comes to live action, anything that comes to anime. And at this point, it doesn't really matter if it's American, French, Japanese. Not at all. It's just, if it ain't animated, it sucks. The production value is piss poor. Now, that part I can't really dispute against, but a lot of people see all this stuff and it's just like straight up crap. A prospect that comes to consideration when we talk about the main subject at large, which is the 2017 Death Note live action movie, which just came on Netflix on Friday, August 25th. Which at the time of this stream was like 2 days ago. Now, the first time I watched it was on Etika's streaming. And the reason why I never put the link in the description is because I'm pretty sure Etika has eliminated that stream by now because he doesn't want a community guideline strike, and I can totally understand. There's a reason why there's silent music and why I refuse to do a stream of me watching Death Note, well, the Netflix version of it, just for the same reason, because I don't want a community guideline strike, and I just set this video to monetize. A lot of good that will do, considering my viewer count, and the only time I got 1,000 views on this channel was my Guilty Gear Xrd reaction. But yeah, let's talk about the Death Note 2017 movie. I am pretty sure that anyone who is watching this video, whether it's through the live stream in of itself or if it's pre-recorded by the time anyone watches this, I'm pretty sure people are expecting me to rip the ever-living shit out of that movie. And to these people, I say to y'all, I ask y'all, you guys really want me to say that this thing sucks because it ain't Japanese, don't you? You want me to approach this with the attitude of some ill-informed, unintelligent weeaboo, don't you? You want me to air this movie out for the crazy writing and acting and portrayal of a pre-established character from a foreign country, don't you? You really want me to push my elitist agenda on the 2017 Death Note Netflix movie, don't you? It's like you're waiting for me to talk about how suck this movie is, like a girl who's basically teasing you on a campsite, only to end up stripping you either stripping naked or basically eviscerating you online for no apparent reason. And I say in response to such people, if you are watching right now, chances are I might fulfill that promise, I might fulfill your fever dream, or I might not. I'm not making any promises. I'm not going to approach this like some ill-informed reviewer. I'm not going to be like, oh, this movie's here. All of a sudden, I'm a super duper anime reviewer who knows a thing or two about cinema and anime and all that stuff. No, I'm not going to do that. But I will talk about the movie regardless. So apparently, this movie is trying to right the wrongs of previous films that have tried to take on a foreign franchise but have failed in the eyes of fans and in the eyes of critics. The goddamned Fist of the North Star, for example. Now, that one was heavily respected as far as the manga and anime adaptations were concerned. In contrast to the live-action film, which made a lot of people wonder and prompted a lot of us black folks to do this. Unless we talk about a certain movie involving 7 orange spheres with stars on them, the better. The same can also be said about video game tie-in movies and vice versa. But what about the 2017 Death Note movie? What is it about this film that strikes fear into the hearts of many of us, including the likes of prominent YouTubers who watch anime and play video games for a living? Well, I can point out the obvious, the same reason why people currently hate Ghost in the Shell, and why I won't riff on that, since obviously I haven't watched the live-action movie yet. In case you're wondering, I'm fooling around with one of these. This is supposed to be one of the screws for my CPU cooler. But anyway, I don't know if you can see it. Probably can't. But now, before I really get straight to the point, again, I'm really going to have to say that I'm not going to try and act like I'm some super intelligent movie reviewer, which at this point I really am not. But I am going to state my actual opinion. So to get to the point, my experience with Death Note with the Netflix version of Death Note was rather intriguing at best. Not in a negative fashion, and most certainly not in a positive fashion, let's get that clear. But it was it wasn't and I know this is probably going to offend anyone who watches this stream right now. It's not a bad adaptation, but at the same time it's not good. it's a mixed bag with me. Yeah, that's what I think about the Death Note movie. Somehow, with my own personal experience, I've managed to watch this damn thing. Now so with that, I know this is probably going to offend a lot of Death Note fans, especially coming from someone who's read the manga, watched the anime, and read and watched the live action films. And I'll talk about the 2015 drama later. But anyway, I really do think it's laughable just on the fact that the damn movie was just... I'm astounded at how they approached it, with how they approached this movie. So, oh yeah, spoilers by the way. Anyway, this version of Death Note takes place in Seattle. That's number one. Why not? I'm thinking to myself, okay, why not New York? Why not Atlanta? Why not Chicago? I mean, Chicago, a lot of people have horror stories about Chicago. Why not Los Angeles or anything like that? Since a lot of people say that those places are basically ridden with crime and all that. But you can say that about anywhere, even the seemingly most peaceful place. But again, I'm basically rambling. So yeah, it takes place in Seattle in this gaudy ass high school. Like, I don't know how high schools are like in 2017, if at all, or at least in the 2010s as opposed to in the early 2000s. But if you're a high schooler right now, just tell me. But anyway, we're initially introduced to the main character, Light. Not Yagami, but Turner. Oh, hello. I don't want to pronounce your name. I don't want to try and pronounce your name only to get trolled to death, but yeah. So we get Light Turner with, do fake blonde hair and all that stuff. Instead of this super goody two shoes super genius, we get a super genius who does everybody's homework in their stead. So we got the writers trying to make Light Yagami a much more fallible character than he was in the manga or in the movies, and most certainly in the anime adaptation. So that one really intrigued me. So just seeing that kind of Light reminds me of the 2015 Death Note version of Light, who, just like in the live action films before it, he was a college student. And I find it weird. But yeah, Mac14, thank you for coming into the stream. Thank you for coming to hear my opinion on Death Note. If you want me to rip on this motherfucker just because it's not on league with the manga and anime adaptation most of all, I can't guarantee that I might do that, given that I actually seen the movie for myself this time as opposed to watching it on Etika's stream. Because for one, I'm not Etika, and for damn sure I'm not Shofu. They're great YouTubers, by the way, but their opinions are different from mine. So yeah. But again, I still have to say that Death Note to me was laughable and But yeah, storm hits, Death Note comes from the sky, just like in the anime and just like in the manga and anime. He stumbles upon it, runs off with the rest of the crowd, trying not to get wet, but only too late. Then he comes across this dude who apparently is like a 20-something still in high school. Kind of like that big guy from Kill la Kill. who sounds like Doggy Kruger off of Deca Ranger. Anyway, gets his ass kicked, and instead of the teachers wondering is he alright or whatever, they find that he's doing somebody else's homework. He gets detention. So yeah, he gets detention. Girl squeals on him. The female lead, Mia, who was supposed to be this version's Misa Hamane, who is a cheerleader as opposed to a pop singer. Yeah, she rats him out. Or at least I think that's what happened. I don't know, this was my first time watching it for myself. But yeah, he's in detention. All of a sudden, we got this mystical wind blowing, everything just going out of whack while he's in detention. Speaking of detention, this is like the second reimagining of a pre-established franchise that had a main character remade to be a little more human, and sent to detention. The first Power Rangers, now this. So yeah, and we see Ryuk for the first time. This time played by the Green Goblin from the Spider-Man movie, from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. And I'll get to him later, but Light in this one, he screams like a little girl. He screams like the second older brother from Malcolm in the Middle when he's in deep shit. Like, I can't scream loud because I'm not the only person living in this house, but you get what I mean. This version of Light screams like a little girl. I'm thinking to myself, what the actual hell is this? Okay, I get that Light was screaming like a punk in the anime adaptation, but at least it wasn't as bad as what I had to witness. So, this Ryuk, played by William Dafoe, who seems to be typecasted as the bullying influence. Like, really? Anyway, so it's like, he basically seduces. So from what I'm seeing, he's like, Light's trying to convince himself that this is all a dream and stuff, rather than just accept him. And he's like, and Ryuk's like, okay, so so yeah, this is a dream. You can make it come true. Cut this motherfucker head off. So after Light assesses the rules or whatever, he just writes the name of Kenny, and in South Park fashion, he gets decapitated. Like, my God, they killed Kenny. Oh, yes, that's an old-ass South Park joke. But, oh, Jesus Christ. But, yeah. We also find out that Soichiro Yagami, or should I say James Turner, starts off having a strange relationship with his son because his mom died. Like in the 2015 adaptation, where that version's Light Yagami had a mother that died. None of the previous incarnations of Death Note had Light's mother died. Granted, she didn't play much of a role in the franchise, but still, that got me. If you're seeing the ticker below, never mind that. If you've seen the ticker below, don't mind that. That's for Beautiful Thursdays. Or might as well just get that over with and be like, yeah, Beautiful Thursdays will not be airing on the Thursday of Dragon Con. So, yeah. But anyway, this is... So we see that. It was like, he's assessing the rules. He's testing the Death Note out, blah, blah, blah. And after skimming through all the rules, he's like, don't trust Ryuk. Mispronouncing Ryuk. And I am so happy that this version of Ryuk tells this motherfucker to get it straight. It's pronounced Ryuk. Forgive me if I'm paraphrasing, but he's like, it's pronounced Ryuk, not Ryuk. What this ain't Street Fighter USA. Get that shit right. But yeah, the Phil's performance with Ryuk is actually pretty cool. No, I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty nice. Then this version's Mia is like, "Oh, I'm sorry for what I did." And then we get all 50 Shades of Grey, and when Light is like, "Oh yeah, I have a notebook that can kill people. You may not believe me, but yeah." So he shows it to her and is like, "Okay, cool, I'm in." It's just all manners of what the actual hell am I watching? But to the movie's credit, the pacing is actually pretty dope. The movie's pacing is pretty dope. It's like they waste no time showcasing just how cool the Death Note is for murdering people just on principle of writing their names or giving them a cause of death. I mean, at least with that, they followed the spirit of Death Note to a T on that level. So bonus points for that. Now, much unlike in the previous incarnations, where the people give the mysterious killer, aka Light, the unofficial title of Kira, Light and Misa, that's basically what I'm going to call her. That's basically what I'm going to call her, because that's what they're trying to give us. It's like, yeah, let's accept that name. And Light's like, yeah, of course, because it means light in other languages, but in Japan, greetings, Zypher. Welcome to my live stream, and say hello to the emergency services truck. Anywho, but yeah, the pacing is pretty. But yeah, the pacing of Death Note is it checks in, it checks out. It's pretty good. Like the pacing, like really checks out in that one. Now, what Light does in this movie is that a lot of he tricks a lot of people into thinking that Kira is based in Japan. So that's what we're getting. Yeah, hi EMTs. It's like, did somebody get drunk or put themselves in a dangerous situation, or is this like a legit emergency? But yeah, anyway, so we get this crazy, so we get this craziness. So we fast forward to Japan, where we're introduced to this movie's version of L. Ryuk is the devil in this movie. Well, well, he does act like the devil anyway. He's more devil. He was more devil than Shinigami. He was more devil than Shinigami anyway. But in this one, they really hammer it. Now, don't get me wrong. I really think the performance of Ryuk is good. It's just that it bothers me that Ryuk is a little more involved than he is in other incarnations. Simply because, like, normally Ryuk just doesn't give it. Is the kind of character that just doesn't give a damn as long as he's just entertained. He doesn't just step in. He doesn't just flat out step in and be like, yeah, yeah, you're screwing up with the whole Death Note thing, so let me handle it. Yeah, that's what's going on in this movie. He's a little more involved. He's far more interactive here than he was in the previous incarnations. Exactly. Normally when you have characters like Ryuk, is like, sure, he just steps in, but he mainly just observes. So yeah, So this is so that's what gets me is that Ryuk this time is just stepping in and causing all manners of mayhem rather than just sitting here and watching, eating his apples. Oh yeah, another which leads me to one other noticeable nitpick is that they're shoehorning the whole Ryuk loves apples deal. But then again, I don't think that's the case. I think they kind of glossed over that one and just made it fan service fodder more than anything else. Another thing is that Mia, this movie's version of Misa, is more of a dead ringer for Light than her manga counterpart really is. Emphasis on manga since Death Note was originally a manga. But yeah. But I'm not gonna compare her too much to her original counterpart, so he's more like addicted in this one. You are like we're talking about Ryuk or we're talking about Light? Cause yeah, um, that's the thing. Ryuk is far more obvious, and that's what bothered me about this interpretation. The performance is nice and everything, but still, I'm still pretty torn with that. Um, yeah. But yeah, back to the subject of this 30-second delay. I mean, Ryuk is addicted to apples. Like, Ryuk developed that addiction. The minute his mouth touched the apple in previous incarnations, and by that I'm not talking about the 2015 drama because I only watched the first episode and I found it forgettable. But, yeah. Back to L. And this being an American movie, and from somebody who can speak Japanese well enough to make it sound natural, well, as natural as possible at least. Just hearing L speak Japanese bothered me. His Japanese sounded far more American than anything else, and that was what made me cringe a bit. So yeah, Masaoka from Heroes, who also produced this movie, is one of the detectives there as well. So that's something to note. Just thought I'd put that one out there at least. So this version of L is... how can I say this? When things go his way, he's calm and collected. But when things turn to shit, he's just sporadic and his concentration slips away from him. It's like he's more artistic than eccentric. And I don't mean autistic in a bad way either, since I could basically understand this character a little bit. Like, even when he didn't get his way, he was still kind of calm and collected. That, and he knew martial arts. Whereas this version of L, he's prone to going bat crap insane even under extreme conditions. Even in the midst of an emergency or something like that. He's just like, holy crap, get this done now! Or, please! The whole L like sweets thing is kind of an afterthought. I mean, they got his mannerisms and stuff, and they made him a lot bolder in this one too. Rather than hiding behind a computer screen, he just shows up ninja. He just shows up in his hipster ninja garb and is like, "Hey, Light," or "Hey, Kira, guess what? You can't kill me. Come at me, bro. Come see me. I'm right here. Like, straight up in the flesh, just hiding his face. As opposed to previous versions where he's like, oh yeah, computer voice. Oh, and there's no Lindell Taylor in this one. Like, some of the performances in Death Note were actually pretty cool, I'm not gonna lie, but at the same time, it's just boggles the mind with what I'm looking at. I don't know. It's like, I can't, in good faith, just solely curse this movie out and say, damn it straight to hell. Not after my own personal experience, but again, let's just move forward. So, Mia is the first to find out about L just basically threatening Kira to come see him and whatnot. And she's doing more of the Light Yagami type shit than Light is doing. So with that, it's like they're making Light in. So this version of Light is more of a punk bitch, basically. Calling himself the savior of the new world only when it's convenient for him, but when things go to crap, just the thought of it makes him a less likable character than any of his original counterparts, since we're at it. Now, I'll consider that a prelude to an in-character episode that I might do on the original Light Yagami. And much unlike my Son Goku retrospective, I might bring up this movie in conversation. Yeah, and if anything, Mia is more Light Yagami than Mia is more light than the actual Light, and that scares me to some degree. If anything, she should be this movie's version of Light Yagami rather than this guy called Light here, because she understands the concept of crime in this world. She understands the concept of crime in this world better than the main character does. And that is like, seriously, you're letting this girl put your dick on display. And you're supposed to be the main character that is supposed to be this social justice warrior genius posing as a god. You're supposed to be that version of Light, not her. She's supposed to be the one that is supporting you and stuff to the point where she is all sporadic and stuff and less intelligent. You're just a dumbass who just happens to be a pussy and just happens to be a big fat simp. Sure, I despise Light as a character despite being well written in the original version, but at least he had the balls to go after anyone who stood in his way. You, not so much. You, Light Turner, not so much. I don't know which hurts worse. The genius. I don't know which hurts worse. The genius SJW from Japan who plans on making the world a much better place with his twisted mind and a notebook of death, or this wishy-washy American reimagining. I mean, as characters, I despise both of them. But this one, he's far more inconsistent. Like, this guy can't make up his mind. Like, this dude can't make up his goddamn mind. That's what bothers me. That's what sickens me to no end with this interpretation. The only reason I'm comparing the two is because they're both reprehensible in their decisions The only difference is the original version doesn't back down indiscriminately and will kill anyone who got in his way. The one that we got just now, he is just, oh, this is easy. I'll just write everyone's name on the death note without second thought. But when he cares about innocent people, law enforcement, or even his dad is involved, he's like, please don't kill my daddy, please don't kill my daddy, please don't, no. Mia might be a thought, but at least she gets things done. At least she's consistent. She's still not likable, but she's still consistent. I'm thinking to myself, why is this the case? This is supposed to be about, like, y'all gonna be getting shit done when it comes to becoming the god of the new world, even though I don't like Light as a character anyway. But instead it's about another dislikable character who at least gets the job done and has more balls than the protagonist. That says something. Oh my god. And then the meetup between L and Light. I gotta say, it's like them dudes tried way too hard to be such engaging with these two characters. I'm gonna hunt you down. Try and stop me. But then again, what if I want your help? Because I don't want whoever's involved killing my daddy. Well, too bad you made your bed. You're gonna lie in it. This version of Light begs for mercy when things go south. Like, pardon? I wouldn't be surprised if this version was put on CinemaSins. That would be very interesting. Like, wow. I don't know what to say about Death Note other than the fact that this movie is just freaking nuts. It's not a bad movie, but it's sure as hell not a good movie. As a movie that bases itself loosely on the source material, which is the 2003 manga, it does a semi-decent job at best. But at the same time, now the only thing it does is basically follow the concept of a young man who is forcibly holding the world hostage by killing random criminals left and right without second thought. At least they got that right. But as far as characters are concerned, I mean, I'm not saying that this version of Light has to be just like Yagami or anything like that. He just has to be much better written at best. L, he's not a good antagonist at all. L is just a terrible antagonist in this version. It's like the writers were trying to make him far more human than he needed to be. I mean, they basically tried to fix what was never broken in the... They basically tried to fix a character that was never fucking broken in the first place. And that really kind of irked me. This version of L kind of reminds me of the 21st century version of Zod from the Man of Steel movie. Always screaming when he didn't get his way, blah, blah, blah. Whereas in the original Superman 2 film where Zod was around, that one had power. That guy had a sense of command. He didn't have to yell. He didn't have to scream. All he had to do is flex his muscles, both physically and mentally, in a calm manner. What is it with these antagonists trying to be so emo and trying to scream their guts out and trying to be hardcore and all that stuff? What is it about that? What is it with modern writers trying way too hard? That's what gets me. That's something I mean, I don't think they do that with every single bad guy or antagonist or rival. But at the same time, it's like when they do come across something like this where the original version of that villain or antagonist is cool, calm, and collected. And when they try to reimagine him or her, he or she is always loud, irrational when things go south. Or rather, it doesn't take that long to get that character to their breaking point. The real sense of humanity comes from such a character when where a simple catastrophe doesn't break them, but when it finally goes full circle, which will take more time, it's rewarding to see that character, to see the person you're least rooting for go down. Here, nothing is left. With this version of L, there's not much left in the imagination. Things aren't going his way, so he's going bat crap insane, and it's laughable. It's really laughable. If I saw this again, I'd probably cry instead of laugh. I'd laugh more than his actor during the gag reels. Which brings me to how I feel about Death Note as its own film. It felt like watching The Good Son. The Good Son really tried way too hard to make the main character extraordinarily evil. Well, to make the main villain of the story be extremely evil, whereas here in Death Note they try to make him incredibly eccentric and manic. But it seems like as his own character, yeah, you do feel for him, but it's like they're really trying too hard to make him human. And I think that's what's going on in a lot of media, especially Western media. But that rant's going to be for another time, because this is just, I don't even get it. Not only that, they have this one pull out a gun, which Erica jokingly called the Thought Destroyer, because Mia's a thought. Okay, nope. So yeah. Oh boy, like, I don't even know where to begin with this movie. Again, it's not a bad movie, but it's not a good movie as well. And for me to just poke fun of it because it's not the anime version or the manga version, that would make me feel far more ignorant than I'm already portraying myself to be, and that's just not good. So with that, it's like this movie confuses me, basically. I will say this though, I can't really recommend this version of Death Note in good faith. despite my opinion, there is some things I will say for anyone who is new to Death Note. I suggest you read the original 2003 manga, whether it's translated in English or not, or it's translated to your own language or not. Just read the manga first. Then watch the Japanese live action films. I don't care if they suck. I don't care if anyone told you that it sucks. Just watch the damn things and see for yourself. Then watch the anime, which is also on Netflix. All of its episodes available in subs and in dubs, or if you're a maniac, you can watch the Japanese dub with no subtitles at all. You can watch the Death Note rewrites as well. You can watch the other Japanese Death Note movies, and after you're done with that, go on the internet and locate the forgettable 2015 live action drama, also from Japan, and then you can watch the Netflix version of Death Note, which was made with the American audience in mind. Which I think is the dumbest idea which to me is the dumbest idea I ever did see, because if you're trying to appeal this to American audiences, then chances are they're going to think that is the de facto and the original Death Note. Because 9 times out of 10, not everybody's going to look at based on the original story by some guy whose name they can't pronounce. Because here's the thing about mainstream Western audiences. Many of them can't pronounce foreign languages. They don't even get the original source material because it's from another country and the cultural standards are much different. And then you have the subject of literature, where these characters will... Because here's the thing. When you think about adaptations, especially with movies, they try to make the character not only relatable, but at the same time, they try to make the character far more likable. Take Iron Man, for example, the first movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. In the original comic books, the guy was completely drunk and the guy was always drinking and was completely out of his goddamn mind with these crazy concepts and ideas that he would always do. Like, he would create a destructive weapon. Like, for example, he would create a weapon of mass destruction only to destroy it. All because he wanted to see how strong it is when it comes to messing up the surface of the earth. If you want to talk about how crazy Tony Stark is when he created Ultron and incited civil war in the MCU, then you, my friend, might have either forgotten or never seen Tony Stark in action when it came to the comics. Tony Stark is good at getting himself in trouble just as much as getting himself out. The only difference is between the movies and in the comic books, his actions in the comics are far more reprehensible and enough to make you want to choke the guy. Far more than the Robert Downey Jr. interpretation. But at least with the MCU, the characters are still likable. Regardless. Another example I should bring up, since I plan on bringing back an old retrospective involving The Boy Who Lived, Harry Potter. How he screwed up Malfoy was far more reprehensible than the movie would lead you to believe. Like, Draco Malfoy was really going through the very issues of his fate in the Half-Blood Prince, respectively. His father was incarcerated. Voldemort has chosen Draco to be a Death Eater, and it's not sitting well with him. Sure, it looks like he's doing a damn good job, but at the same time, he just doesn't want any part of it. You see him in the bathroom breaking down, moaning Myrtle trying to cheer him up, and then Harry steps in, still enraged, still thinking that Malfoy is the bad guy, has this black and white interpretation of him because he just can't stand him, just on principle of him being a Slytherin and his father getting involved with Voldemort. So, Master Menos. It no, Master Menos. I'm gonna get to that later, but I'm gonna talk about. I'm gonna talk about books versus media, books versus the visual medium. In the books, Harry Potter, in the Half Blood Prince, especially when he was fighting Malfoy, his actions were reprehensible. So much so that even Professor McGonagall agreed with Snape's punishment for him, which was to basically record and shelf books for the rest of the year under Snape's supervision. No Quidditch, no nothing. Just go to class and meet up with Snape. That is until Dumbledore shows up. Here, Harry Potter was actually the bad guy, and he got the punishment he deserved. In the movie adaptation, on the other hand, they made him a little more they made Harry out to be more of a hero. His actions still reprehensible, but not enough to get him severely punished. Oh, and that act ends with Harry Potter sealing the deal with Ginny in the room of requirement while hiding the Half-Blood Prince's book. Note the differences there. Now, let's talk about the manga and Death Note. Now, but before that, I still think both versions of Half-Blood Prince are pretty good, and I really do suggest you watch them. I'm just stating the differences. Now, with the 2003 manga and the 2017 movie, Light is a super genius and living proof that even the best of us can go down with the right motivation and the right thinking. Here, they made Light so goddamn inconsistent, it's just baffling. As even if this was just an original movie with no ties to source material whatsoever, this character is still terrible, both in writing and in execution. How much damage did the movie do to you so far? Okay, to answer your question, Master Menos, it did damage alright, but not enough. And I'm glad that's the case. As I said earlier, Death Note 2017 is from my personal experience, it's And since this was my first time watching it for myself, it was entertaining while at the same time it kind of scarred me in a few areas, but not enough to do too much damage to where I'm just going to be like, it's not like the manga, so it has to suck. No. I'm not going to bash it throughout. I'm not going to bash it flat out. I can't do it. I mean, it's too easy for me to do so. Especially with my experience in mind. So I really can't say it has done me such great harm. So, with that said, let's talk about the later scenes thereof. Like, say, Watari. Oh yeah, let's talk about L's butler, Watari. Butler/assistant, Watari. Appearance-wise, they made him a badass. Well, character-wise, he's your standard Japanese stereotype in American media. Always got something wise to say. Always got something wise to say, blah, blah, blah. He's your standard Japanese He's your standard American perception of a Japanese person in a TV show or in a movie. And you wonder why I have a hard time dealing with these kind of interpretations of foreigners in American media. I find them laughable, but not enough to offend me. I mean, sure, I find it a little off-putting, but not enough to offend me. But with their interpretation of Watari It's just like, really? If I was a drinking guy, if I was the type of guy who drank alcohol, I would probably go to my nearby service station next to my house and probably buy some beer for every time he said, sleep strengthens your thought and all that jazz. Because that's the medley he's been under ever since they've introduced us to him in this movie. Go to sleep. It'll increase your strength. Okay. That's the route we're going to, then fine. I question how they've written Watari at times. I mean, I'll acknowledge the movie, but again, I'm going to acknowledge the movie for the risks they took. But the execution is semi-satisfactory. So, to put it plainly, at least this movie tried very hard. At least this movie tried. At least this movie had some bit of effort, unlike most anime tie-in films that were either made in America or made in Japan. But yeah, this one was trying. This one really tried. The ending, I'm not too sold on. I mean, I'm not going to just flip a bird at it. I'm just going to be like, huh, okay. That's where we're going. That's fine. Just don't expect me to watch the sequel. If I do, chances are I might go with the sole purpose of hating it for hate's sake, or be like, okay, that's the route we're going. So is like going to be a detective for the Seattle Police Department in the sequel, or is there going to be a manhunt for him? I don't know. Is William Dafoe going to play the voice of Ryuk in this one, or be the motion cap actor? Sod's Law. Like I said, I can't guarantee you guys that I'm just gonna riff off this movie. Like, it didn't do too much damage. The only reason I posted what I posted on Facebook on the day of Etika's streaming of that movie was because I saw it through, it was partially because I saw it through his eyes, or through the eyes of Shofu, or through everybody else. And before I can fully make my opinion, I come home from work, change my clothes, eat my dinner, and be like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to watch this movie for myself, see if it's really as bad as people say it is. I'm pretty sure the effects will come. I'm pretty sure the damaging effects of this movie will come. I'm pretty sure that's going to happen. It's happened to me many times to where I would ultimately feel at last second that this movie sucked ass. Let me provide a little bit of experience with this one. I was watching this movie called I Could Do Bad All By Myself, which was one of those Tyler Perry films based off the plays and whatnot. And I thought it was good at first, but days later I thought, holy crap, this movie gave me nightmares. I couldn't stand it. I'll never watch another Tyler Perry film or play ever again unless it's for shits and giggles. There might come a time where I just might go off on Death Note, not because it's a bastardization of the source material, but because it was a crap movie to begin with. I mean, it doesn't have to be because it's a bastardization of previous material or pre-established whatever. It could be because of the fact that even on its own, it could not carry the weight. It was basically dragging its ass in execution. The pacing might be good, and the characters might be human or whatever, but trying to make a character human doesn't always mean it's going to win any awards. And it really bothers me how, especially here in the United States, they're going to try and think that they're going to do better just because we're Americans. We're Americans and we do what we want. It's that kind of thinking that kind of bugs me as an individual, especially as someone who invests most of their time in Japanese media. And it makes it hard for me to respect American cinema because of their progressive mind state. That brings about some serious restrictions, and you really think with American cinema having pushed the envelope years ago, they would have learned by now how to advance on that or how to improve that concept. But no. Instead, they make the wrong things extraordinarily hardcore, and everything right with it thrown to the side. I mean, I get you're trying to appease the new generation and a new audience, but there are better ways of doing that. And you gotta love us as and you gotta love the YouTube generation, because there's always going to be somebody on YouTube that's going to fact check something. And the same can be said about my video. Somebody might stumble across it and try to fact check it. Okay, that's fine by me. Unlike some of these people that show up on YouTube and try to be famous only to get insulted and then they run away, I'm welcome to it. I mean, I've been insulted, I've been criticized, I've been corrected a few times, and that's okay. That helps me improve, that helps me grow. And I hope with the staff behind the 2017 Death Note movie, they might improve upon a couple of things. Because I really do see some potential. The only problem is everything about this movie is slightly less than satisfactory, with half of the stuff dragging his ass. That's the only thing that bugs me. That potential is just not being reached. Instead, it takes the DMC Devil May Cry approach and tries to be exclusively hardcore, violent, and excessive with less than half substance. Like, if you're going to try and make the movie stand on its own 2 feet, then you gotta understand sometimes subtlety really does help. Sometimes doing a little more research on why your source material has touched the lives of everyone who's watched it. Here's the thing about Death Note. It's a story of a young kid who has a black and white view on the world, who is incredibly smart, and has spent most of his life completely unpunished because he has done so damn good. But as he grows, he comes to the conclusion that mankind has done all manners of evil, and it's because of his pure heart not being improved or fine-tuned. He goes on this massive killing spree, posing as a vigilante, posing as this godlike vigilante, saving the world for the greater good by murdering criminals, even if these criminals are trying to clean up their act. And that's the kind of attitude that the police don't seem to sit well with, is because this person has this young, immature mentality to believe that just because they're bad guys, they have to be extinguished, rather than go through the motions. I praise vigilantism for his actions, but sometimes even that comes at a high cost. It's not perfect. No form of law enforcement, vigilante or otherwise, is perfect. The police, they got agendas. Police and any other form of law enforcement, they got agendas, and agendas change. I know that came straight out of Civil War, but that's actually true. This is why some people don't trust the police, and why they would rather trust a vigilante. Now, the vigilante might get the job done, but sometimes that vigilante might go rogue or might lose their minds after incurring the very experience in of itself. Death Note is a story of a person bathed in white light, bathed in the white light of justice, being completely unchecked. And it's because of him not being corrected or being properly challenged, he or she goes off with no form of recourse, being like, you're bad, so I'm going to kill you. Being judge, jury, and executioner with little to no reason at all. No need to listen to the excuses of the villains and all that stuff. I'm going to kill you just by writing your name and giving you some funky cause of death. It's about that kind of character who, as a result, ultimately has no friend, no one to talk to, no one to actually turn to and actually trust. Instead, this person is dying at their own sword due to their lust for justice. It's bizarre, yet it's the truth. Here, we don't see that. We see an already broken individual trying to change the world, but can't do it because they're so rooted in their inconsistency. Overall, Death Note is slightly below average. It's kind of on the 50-50 side with me. It's part entertaining, yet part cringe. Then again, I kind of don't mind cringe anyway, so of course. Talking to a guy who loves anime titties. And I'm pretty sure by the time this video comes out and is already pre-recorded, somebody is going to fact check it. And I'll just admit to being wrong. Because quite frankly, I don't really care. So, there's my 2 cents on the Death Note 2017 movie. It's average. It's your standard modern day 2017 movie about some hipster trying to change the world by killing criminals and those that stand in his way. At least that's how I see it. So with that, I'm ending this live stream for right now. I'll put a thumbnail on it along with the previous other videos. Oh, as for Beautiful Thursdays, this coming week at the time of this recording is the start of Dragon Con 2017. So with that in mind, I cannot play Beautiful Joe while this convention is happening. Thursday, August 28th, same case right there. So with that said, I'm ending the stream. I'm glad to see a lot of people. I'm glad to see this turnout happen with my live stream. This is the 5 was like the 5 to 6 was like the most people on stream I gotten. And to the people that stuck by and watch, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you coming in just to hear my opinion and whatnot, even though my opinion is kind of far-fetched and so forth. So with that, thank you guys so much. Hope to see you guys in the next one. Beautiful Birthdays will start the week after Dragon Con, or rather 3 days after Labor Day. So with that said, this is Showa signing off. I'm getting real sleepy now. Johnny, catch you later.